home countries have suffered to sustain in the West. The very companies at the heart of the rotten politics today are also doing their very best to snuff out the very planet we live on. From greenhouse gas emissions to pollution contaminating the earth we walk on and eat from, they are manufacturing more forceful migrations in the future to fill their wallets today. But we're saying enough. People are rising up and saying no. And from Sudan to Hong Kong to Greece to Belarus to Lebanon, people are rising up in a unified cry to saying no to exploitation, no to oppression, no to greed, and yes to democracy and self-determination. And the borders created by these fucking vampires that keep us separate and unequal, they are crumbling, and no home office in the world is going to stop the tide of people rising up for bread, dignity and justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiba. So we've been speaking here today, and we've been speaking half to ourselves, half to the Home Office. But I'm not sure the Home Office can fully hear what we have to say. So I wanted to ask you all, what do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
We're going to try a different one now. I don't know if you all know the story of Mercy Baguma. Mercy was an asylum seeker in this country who was forced to live on £37 a week, as thousands are forced to. She starved to death, and she died last week. So I want us all to say loud and clear, I want us all to say her name. I want us all to say Mercy Baguma. Say her name.
Mercy Baguma!
Say her name.
Mercy Baguma!
Say her name.
Mercy Baguma!
I hope those vampires hear it. So I'm going to talk for a bit, and after I've spoken, we're hopefully going to get the drums back, and we're going to have a little break for our second round of speakers. But I wanted to start by just saying that there are people here today who have been through the immigration system, and it is dangerous for them to be here. And they struggle every day just to exist. And I wanted to say that during my life, I've also been partially disabled for a part of my youth. And a lot of it was just suffering. But the thing about suffering is you feel weak, but actually you're the strongest of all. And I wanted to talk to the people in this audience who are going through the immigration system, who are being targeted by the Home Office. You're the strongest of all of us. And thank you. So I am a climate justice activist, but I didn't become an environmentalist because I cared about trees or because I cared about animals. I joined because I cared about people. I joined because over the last few years I came across news article after news article about climate change. These articles talked about societal collapse, ecosystem collapse, economic collapse. Even I could see from the corner of my eye that climate change was an existential crisis. But here are some other stories that I've come across. A friend of mine works with trafficked women, and they routinely tell her that their time in immigration detention was the worst of all that happened to them. Climate change will force 500 million people from their homes by 2050. 47 countries are at risk of civil conflict, just as Syria has been, within the next few decades because of climate breakdown. And just to show you what this means, late in 2016, two Iraqi brothers shared a tent in a migrant camp in Calais. They were being filmed for a documentary. but by accident their mics were left on them as they went to sleep one night. They'd been trying to cross the channel for months and they had lived in nothing but tents in all that time. They had nothing to go back to. The elder brother hugs his younger brother, and the mics pick up the fact the younger brother is crying. He is sobbing. The older brother hugs him and says, "What do you want? I would part the ocean for you. I would move mountains for you. You are my brother." Why are borders like this? But the truth is, borders aren't like this for everyone. Whilst trillions of dollars in investments and over $100 billion in arms freely flow across borders every year, the people these investments exploit and the entire societies these arms destroy. Borders exist because they make the rich richer and the poor poorer, or they would not exist at all. And we know climate breakdown is right now forcing people from their homes in the global south. But it was mainly caused by us here in the global north. The richest 1% of the planet are responsible for over half of all emissions globally. Yet the poorest half are only responsible for 1% of global emissions. Where the global north has benefited, the global south will pay the cost. Climate change is simply an extension of a system that has existed for a long time. It is the largest attack on the global poor by the wealthy in human history. For those in the global south and many both suffer together under that same system and the same exploiters. And maybe a lot of us understand that. But what is often missed is that borders play a huge role. Your nationality determines half your income. Borders prevent people from equalising that playing field. The wealth of the world is extracted and stored in Western nations. Borders stop countries from taking back what's rightfully theirs. Borders make it so that the farmer in Brazil and the Baku delivery driver in London don't realise they are being exploited by the same people. Borders make it so that we are tricked into believing our safety and our security, our access to food and wealth has to come at the expense of another. But the truth is we are only safe as long as our migrant siblings are.
I love it when that plan comes together. And you're too young for the 18.
So I just wanted to end on this.
For the what? 18?
These two fights, global north and global south, for security and for dignity, they will always be the same fight. If dividing us is a weakness, then uniting us is strength. Remaking the world means challenging those who want to keep it this way. And that's why we sit here outside the Home Office. And that's why we call out the corporations that drive climate change and pillage the global south. Remaking the world also means unity. And that's why we're bringing together two movements today that have to work together. All right. We're going to have a break now from speakers. And in a few minutes, we're going to start some drumming. Maybe we have to wait for the drummers to finish their food. All right. We're going to have speakers on in about 10 minutes. Have yourselves a nice rest, and we're back soon. Thank you so much for coming.
Climate justice is migrant justice!